Welcome to The Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. We all have challenge that we face every day of our lives, whether it's something as small as waking up with a headache and not feeling good, or maybe you get cut off in traffic. But then there's challenge that comes in life that is totally unexpected, totally derails the plans we have for life, puts us on a course that we never chose, that we could have never imagined being placed on. And yet when we wake up and we have to face that challenge, to face that impossible, sometimes we have no choice. And that's certainly been true of Austin and I's journey with cancer, with amputation, with bone marrow transplant. And it is especially true with our guest today. She woke up at the age of 18 from what should have been a pretty, while not an easy surgery, should have been fairly routine in the expected result. She woke up paralyzed. And we're going to dive into her full story and everything she's learned along the way. But what I think is most important to highlight here is that while she faced that impossible challenge, she did not allow it to totally consume her and to totally control her. She found a way forward. She found a way to create an impossible version of herself, someone who could not or should not otherwise have existed. And now she lives every day at her highest potential, loving life, not letting anything set her back or control her. And she's doing the impossible every single day. So we're so excited and honored to welcome Bella Mohn to the show. Thank you for being here, Bella.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I kind of want to start by taking it back even a little bit before the surgery, just to day-to-day life growing up. Yeah. Did you grow up here in the Seattle area?
Yeah, my whole life, born and raised.
Nice. What's it like growing up in the Pacific Northwest?
Rainy, for sure, definitely.
Unexpected weather.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of our Ohio people can relate to that as well. We had a day recently where it was like 80 one day, and then it was like 32 the next day, and It was just, it felt ridiculous.
Too much.
But yeah, I definitely can relate to that. And you said you were born with a condition they knew about, right? Like a heart condition?
They didn't find it till I was 15.
Oh, wow.
But I was actually born 3.5 months early. I weighed 1 pound, 12 ounces. So yeah, I have a twin sister, and she was 2 pounds. And
I didn't know you had a twin.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So was this a disease that like just genetically can happen, random chance, or was this something that was a complication of being born so early?
It just happened. They don't really know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did your sister have the same thing, or was this
Nope.
just something you, wow, that's wild. And so how did they discover it when you were 15?
I went in the hospital. My heart rate was over 200, and they did an EKG and they found it, but it only shows up sometimes. They did not find it before on any EKGs I had. So, yeah.
Wow, that's wild. And you said from there, they rushed you into kind of a pretty immediate surgery.
No, so they gave me meds for that, but it was manageable until I was about 18, and they ended up needing to go do the surgery, and yeah.
And what was the original goal of the surgery? Was it just to adjust something to kind of more regularly control your heart's rate, like an ablation or something like that?
Yeah, they did an ablation.
Okay.
And so it fixed that, but I woke up and within 3 days I was paralyzed from the waist down. So.
Wow. So you weren't immediately paralyzed upon waking, and were you able to get up and move around somewhat normally immediately after
Really
that?
bad weakness and really bad pain. I couldn't really get out of bed. And yeah.
And that turned into paralysis. Wow. And you said they don't really have any good like understanding or idea as to why that happened?
No, they thought it could have been the anesthesia or meds that they gave me, but we're really not sure at this point, which I think is really hard, just like not knowing why this has happened to me. And yeah, but I'm gonna start seeing more doctors and figure it out.
Well, and I know Austin, you definitely relate to that. So Austin's a cancer survivor. He's battled it 4 times now, actually. Wow. And I definitely remember at the beginning, there was a lot of that trying to understand why this happened. How did this happen?
Yeah, it was difficult because I wasn't a long-term smoker. I wasn't a long-term consumer of carcinogens and all that kind of stuff. It was merely, I mean, going in, we had somewhat of an idea of what may have caused it, but at the time, I don't know if it is, still true or not, but they basically told me that they really don't understand what causes the mutation itself. But merely this particular mutation of Hodgkin's lymphoma that I had, it just happens, and unfortunately my body was not able to capture it in time. And it led to, like Matt said, 3 technical relapses in the span of about 3.5 years. And
Wow.
so leading up to as he said before, the bone marrow transplant. But it really was coming to terms with that and not having... I would be curious as to your kind of kind of mindset behind this, but like I would say going into the first few months of treatment, I really struggled with having that sort of, like, I was battling against cancer, but I didn't have what I was battling, like what had caused that, and what could I pursue and battle against in that point, because I knew, like, okay, I'm going through treatment. I'm not feeling good. Chemo's not the most fun thing. And that was one part of it. But another part of it was, okay, like, I didn't have that, oh, well, now I quit smoking and it's just this, or I developed this and it caused the cancer. Like, I did not know.
Yeah.
You didn't have a way to fix it.
I didn't have a way to fix it, but I didn't have something to blame as well. And so the blame, that was my struggle, was I had the blame kind of, it would always... I'd throw the rock up the hill, not realizing it's a very steep hill, and the rock would come back and hit me, and I'd be like, oh, well, it might be this. It comes back, oh, I'm the one to blame. Okay, I'll throw it back up the hill again, comes back down, oh, am I to blame? And I kept doing that, for months. But I don't know, if you had any kind of battle similar to that, of like trying to find something, something to blame, to kind of, for me, it was mostly just a relief of pressure, to be honest, because I mean, the pressure of chemo, the pressure of having lived such a healthy life, and then that just kind of appears out of nowhere. Did you have any issues like that?
Yeah, definitely depressed at first, not understanding why. I blamed myself, honestly, for a little bit. I was like, like, is this my fault? Like, I should be walking, at first I didn't really get that much physical therapy in the hospital. So I was like, I don't know. I was really depressed. Yeah.
And in those trenches, you really I found a lot of comfort, I would say, with what had passed. And for me, I was able to sort of not only turn the page, but maybe get to another chapter, like get to the next chapter after going through that kind of depression. Because as everybody who follows the podcast knows, like, months 3 through kind of 4.5 of treatment for me, definitely that 3.5 to 4.5 month period was a time where I was very, very okay with not waking up the next day. I found myself in that position of the pain and the worry that I'm causing unto others who are taking care of me at the time. Like, that's something that I don't want to see them continue to go through. And this is obvious, and I was in that position of, again, blaming myself. So blaming self, you're depressed, you're going through something that is really not slowing you down in life, but certainly impeding a lot of things that you could have been doing instead.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, I found a lot of comfort in kind of getting to that next chapter beyond that, beyond that kind of depressive state of, like, okay, guess what? We're just going to have to do something about this, other than sulk about it.
Yeah.
And people, like in the car ride, I think, I heard the conversation possibly of just, like, having that sort of ability to sort of deal with it. You get through that sulking stage, which is fine, but, like, it's up to you to come out of that in such a more positive manner, instead of staying into that rut. Oh, it was about, when you were told, your instructions post amputation of, like, oh, like, you may have to be on you have to be on disability, you probably don't, are you going to work again? Probably not. Like, that kind of, that kind of mindset could and most certainly would be understandable if one were to fall into it. But that's what's so incredible about watching your journey, is that you've taken this really difficult card and you've turned it into something that's more of this unbelievable opportunity that you're taking control of. And that's what's really awesome to see about your journey. And so like coming out of that depressive state, was there something really key that you found yourself kind of like thinking about on the daily, or like what was that kind of like turning the page?
Gosh. At first I was depressed and stuff. And I think one day I just like realized like, I really have a choice. Do I want to sulk and like, think about what I can't do, or do I want to try and adapt and figure out ways to still live and think about what I can do and not let those doctors who said I wasn't going to walk again define my future, and put in the work and try and just not give up and always have that hope in walking again. And, having a positive mindset and outlook for sure, thinking about all I'm grateful for and all I can still do has really helped a lot and really gotten me out of that deep depression I was in. For so long I didn't want to live. I was like, I couldn't imagine a life like this. And I didn't have a community or know much about, people were telling me, you're not going to do much with your life. And I was just like, one day I was like, I'm not going to listen to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that gives you a whole new level of purpose, which is going to be that pull motivation. Tony Robbins loves to talk about that thing that's like getting you out of bed in the morning, that's pulling you forward, despite all of the challenge that we have to face in life. That's the stronger driver, and I think that's a key element to coming out of any of these types of situations, and that's what we try to teach people on the show exactly, is how do you establish, first find some level of passion for your life, something, to get excited about, something that you want to work for, something that you want to build, and then how do you shape that into a purpose that can be a little more defining and give us a reason to move forward, a reason to fight. So rather than having something to fight directly, although that can still be a driver in and of itself, especially at the beginning, how do we find something that we want to fight for? And I think that's a much more powerful driver. So taking it back to that 18-year-old girl who's like waking up, I had originally thought you woke up paralyzed, but it was actually, I would guess, even more challenging to wake up, have that function, but to know something's wrong and then to watch it over several days just slowly slip away from you. What's going through your head in those points? What kind of questions are you asking yourself?
I was honestly in shock and honest disbelief. I didn't really know what was happening to me, and it was terrifying. And, I feel like a lot of the time in the hospital and the rehabilitation place, I just have bits and pieces I remember, but it was a very traumatic time. And
I would imagine, I remember when I was first diagnosed with cancer, I was like, for a long period of time, I was completely numb.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't know how to think, how to feel. I just remember like sitting there just staring ahead, unable to even start grasping reality. Was it similar to that kind of feeling? Yeah. And I think that's almost an even more challenging and dangerous place to be than the, angry, upset, furious, because at least in those moments you're feeling something, even if it is just purely anger driven, you're feeling something. And it's those moments where we're completely numb. We don't know how to feel. We don't know how to think. We don't know how to act. That I think can be most dangerous because it allows for those thoughts in our minds of, well, should I even be here?
Yeah.
Is this even worth it? And those questions can be incredibly dangerous. How did you start to navigate those questions? I know you said you were able to get to a place where you realized that you could either waste away and allow this to end your life, or you could wake up and start fighting, fighting for something, fighting for a community, fighting to help others. But how did you start answering those questions in those initial moments? What kind of things did you have to believe within yourself to pull you away from those thoughts of suicide or just allowing yourself to die?
You know, my whole life I've struggled with like depression and that kind of stuff. I was in a lot of mental health treatment centers for like that, and I learned a lot of skills at those places. And you know, the one main thing they talked about is mindset and all of that. So I think at first just having that support system and talking to people about it was really key.
Yeah. So you actually had kind of a foundation for working through some of these challenges before any of this. Wow, that had to be powerful. And helping, because I believe that mindset, like you talk about, it's a skill, but I think it goes even more than that. It's a habit.
Yeah,
and it's a habit
for
we
sure.
all have established in some capacity, but it's either a habit that tears us down and limits us, or it's a habit that builds us up and grows us and helps us build others up in our lives as well. So I think if you already had somewhat of a habit built around that, then you would have something to lean on in those times. Do you think it's possible then that, if you struggled with these things before, do you think it's possible that going through all of this gave you something to fight for in a way that helped you develop even stronger habits around your mindset?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely gave me a new perspective on life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm grateful for all that I have. And just after I was paralyzed, before I was just like, I felt so alone in a sense before. I just felt like I was struggling alone. And then just seeing my family and everyone, my friends come together and just, be there for me really helped a lot too. And
I said that, like, when I went through my own cancer journey, I always said that, as hard as it was, I got to be witness to the very best of humanity. And I think Austin definitely can resonate with that. And it is beautiful when you get those moments, as hard as something is, anytime you can see a level of good come from it, it's just a game changer, and it allows us to approach those situations and, reflect upon them, and to be able to gain some more motivation, some of that pull that wants to drive us forward, because it gives us a level of responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to those who are fighting so hard for us.
Yeah.
Is that something that helped, especially initially, just being able to wake up and fight, at least for your family?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine. And was your sister a big part of your life during this process as well?
Yeah, a little bit. She was in college at the time, too.
Okay.
She started college.
Yeah.
And she's all the way in Scotland. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Scotland is Austin's favorite place in the whole world.
Really?
Yeah.
And the whole wide world. Yes.
He goes on a trip there every year.
Oh, I love that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So she's going to school in
Yeah.
Scotland.
Yeah.
What's she studying over there?
Geophysics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Scotland?
She's at University of Edinburgh.
Wow.
That's like his favorite town in
Really?
Scotland.
Yeah, Edinburgh's most favorite city out there. And I know the University of Edinburgh acceptance rate is scarce. So that's really incredible that she was able to get into that program, not to insinuate any inability to, but like to have that opportunity to study there.
Yeah.
I know is just profound. Profound, and such a beautiful campus as well, beautiful university. Oh my, yeah. I will keep going if you don't stop me. So
No, that's really cool. Was it ever a challenge, just her being your twin sister, was it ever a challenge to have to face this paralysis and yet watch her be totally okay physically and get to go on and live her life? Or was that something that was, more motivating and more driving to you?
Definitely more motivating and driving, honestly. I'm glad it happened to me and none of my sisters,
Yeah, for sure. That's a powerful perspective to be able to hold. And I don't think a lot of people who hadn't done that work, on the front end like you had, to be able to build up your mindset, to build some of those habits, would have been able to, accept everything and face everything with that kind of perspective. So that's really powerful. So what originally inspired you to start sharing this journey, to be able to show people like, hey, yeah, I face incredible challenge every day, challenge that most people don't believe they would ever be able to overcome, yet I can approach it every day and find ways to overcome it, to still live my life and do everything that I want to do. What initially got you on that journey?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, you're all
Oh,
good.
yeah, yeah,
You're all good. What got you on the journey of wanting to basically share your journey, your message, and to start inspiring people in this capacity?
Yeah, I think I felt very alone at first. I didn't really have an outlet, and I wanted to help other people. If this happened to me, and I want to do something to show others that you can still go out and live, you can still go out and have a happy life, despite your circumstances, and just sharing that and spreading awareness on the mental health and physical aspect, which is really, I wanted something to do, help others with this too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've built up like a really big following now, and you've got a really strong community around you. What has it meant to have those people in your corner, to know that there's people cheering you on, that your message is inspiring and impacting and helping to build them up in their own capacity in life?
Yeah, it's honestly, I'm so grateful for all my followers and everything like that.
Yeah.
I have gotten messages from people, they've seen I do standing videos and trying to walk again. I've gotten messages from people that I've inspired them to get walkers and on their journey to start walking again, and that I've given them hope, and that honestly just, it feels so good that I'm able to do this and help other people. And
That's so cool. And those are really some of the most rewarding moments in life too, to be able to basically be that person that you needed in some of your darkest hours. Those are incredibly rewarding, to get those messages and just see the impact, because as creators sometimes I think it can be challenging to question, like, is the stuff I'm creating, is the content I'm putting out, is it actually hitting people? Is it actually impacting people? Is it actually making a difference? It can be challenging to ask those questions sometimes, to wonder that. But then the moments you get those messages, you get those comments, it really fills you with a lot of that drive and motivation going forward. Was it challenging at first to kind of establish that base, establish that habit, establish that routine of creating content and having to wonder, if it's having that impact?
Yeah, I think for sure at first, but I was just like, I want to keep going with this. I want to see where it goes. And I never really expected it to get this big and all of that, which just feels great that I'm helping
that's
others.
awesome. It's awesome. And it's really cool to see too, because there's a lot of areas in life where if you have a disability, you're severely limited in your opportunity. And what's cool about, content creation and social media is that the opportunity is just as wide open for you as it is for an able-bodied person. And you can show your story, your message, the things you've overcome through several different lenses. And you can also open people up to a whole new world of living that they would have never otherwise considered. It's really powerful to be able to show people that kind of behind the scenes look of what it's like to live with a disability, because I think that's something people are generally very curious about, but they hesitate to ask and dive into the full details of everything. Now today, it's 4 years later, correct?
Yeah.
Roughly 4 years later. What is it that keeps you driven, keeps you motivated today to keep waking up? Because it's, even though you have overcome a lot of the mental health challenge side of things, there's still challenge you face every single day, and things that still, I'm sure, make you feel like, what is even the point of this? I still have those challenges myself. So how do you wake up every day now and just keep moving forward, keep having that drive, keep wanting to fight, keep wanting to help build others up? What keeps you motivated to keep moving forward?
Definitely thinking about what I can do, not what I can't. My family and friends help a lot, and just knowing that I'm not alone in this. There's other people, definitely maybe not all the same kind of struggles, but that there's other people going through stuff, and it could be a lot worse.
Yeah. It can always be worse. No matter how bad our situations get, it's unbelievable how I'm sure you still get online and see people that you're like, man, I'm glad that I don't have that. It's crazy how that answer is always true. Like there's always something that could be more challenging. And I think developing this practice of gratitude around what we do still have can be super powerful
Yeah.
because, you know, and you know this as well, there's times that you end up back in the hospital and you just think about, man, if I could just get back to how I normally function, you know, it's such a stark contrast to be in those moments and to just wish you could go back to the normal disabled life that you had before. I recently had to get surgery done on my amputation site, and I was off my prosthetic for like 2 or 3 months, and it was a wild experience. I'm like, man, you forget how good life is with the prosthetic leg until you just don't have it anymore. What's up, guys? It's Matt. I hope you are enjoying this powerful episode on the Impossible Podcast. If you like what's happening on this episode, I was hoping I could get 30 seconds of your time to tell you about an opportunity we have for you to dive deeper into this conversation off the camera. We have built an online community on school.com where we dive deep into these lessons we learn on the Impossible Podcast, as well as help you integrate the lessons we teach with Impossible Performance into your own life. This is a space where you can have powerful discussions, expand beyond topics that we talk about on the episode, and most powerfully, it helps you to take control of the narrative you have for your life and write a new story for yourself about who you are. We have courses built in on how to leverage all 4 domains of performance, as well as a lot of the integrative teachings that we provide in Impossible Performance. We do monthly group calls where we all hop on and chat about a subject and how it's reflected in our own lives and how we can learn and grow from each other. This is a powerful new space on the cutting edge of what it's going to be able to offer, but it stands apart from any other social media or online community because of its ability to generate and foster true, authentic human connection, which is what we're all about at Impossible Performance. So if you guys want to join us and dive deeper into these discussions, into what we do at Impossible Performance, and equip yourself to be able to face any impossible challenge or achieve any impossible goal in your own life, we hope to see you there. Use the link school.com/impossible or click the top link in the show notes. Thank you guys for being a part of what we do. Thank you for always being impossible. Now let's get back to the episode. So what are those moments like when you find yourself having to go back to the hospital? I know you recently battled sepsis a couple times, which I had also battled on my cancer journey. What are those times like when you get good momentum build up, you get moving forward in life, it always seems like it's when you're in the best flow of life that it just comes back and like grabs you and you remember some of the things you have to face. What's it like when you end up back in the hospital? How do you stay in those positive mental habits?
Definitely in the hospital, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I've recently had a surgery in the summer, and then I had another one in September or December. And it's definitely hard just being in the hospital. You know, I feel so behind, even though it's like maybe I've had some like month-long stays or longer, and it's like I sometimes forget like what my life was like before. And you know, like you said, it's always during those like times when I feel like my life is finally getting good and like flowing again. And so it is hard, but visitors come definitely really helped, and having my family, and they really help advocate with the doctors. You know, I'm not the best advocate for myself with doctors and stuff. So my parents have definitely honestly saved my life too. And since, you know, when I was septic and stuff.
That's a really interesting point you bring up, this like advocating for yourself, especially in a medical environment.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't know that we've really chatted about before, but it's unbelievably important.
Yeah.
And it's a hard skill to develop too, because they are the trained experts. You want to be able to trust them. But I think the other thing I've always said is that will always be the experts in our own bodies. And especially when you have battled a severe illness or you've faced a disability, you become hyper aware of every little thing in your body. And so you will be aware of things going on in your own body that doctors would never even know to look for, just because of how much you have to focus on it every single day. So I guess, how can we work to build up some of that skill? I know it's not an easy thing to face. Or what are some of the greatest challenges in being able to advocate for ourselves from a medical perspective?
I don't know. I just find it hard just being like, hey, like, I think it's, you know, this isn't like right or something, you know?
Do you think it comes from a place of like anxiety or not wanting to question the expert?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of anxiety, especially when I'm in the hospital and all that too. And I have a trauma in hospitals, so that also makes it a lot harder. And with that sense too. So
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Walking back into the same hospital I was treated for cancer in is always always a challenging experience, and it's a lot of kind of conflicting emotions.
Yeah.
And so when you're already battling that, and then you have to make sure to stay on top of your own care at the same time, it can definitely be challenging.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the great solution you found for it is having a really strong team of people around you who can do that advocating, so that you can focus more on, fighting for yourself and getting yourself where you need to be mentally, emotionally, physically, to be able to fight that battle ahead. And that's great that you have such a strong support system in that capacity as well, because those moments are never easy.
For sure.
Yeah. So for somebody who's facing maybe a new disability for the first time, and they're asking those questions of, how do I overcome this? How do I achieve this? And how do I help others in the face of this? What sort of tips and advice would you give them for being able to start that journey?
Finding community.
Yeah.
I found adaptive sports.
Okay.
And just seeing all I can do, seeing what I have. Every day I write 5 things I'm grateful for, and that also really helps, and I found sled hockey, and I found this organization that has adaptive hand cycling, and I have done adaptive rock climbing outside and adaptive sailing, and just finding all of this stuff that I can still do. And I didn't really know about any of this at first. I didn't know there was a thing called sled hockey. I didn't know any of this. And just having a community and seeing other people, facing this stuff, but in such a positive way, really helped a lot too. And
yeah. I love hockey, and I love sled hockey. I love aggressive sports. They get me so excited. That's why I hate golf, as golf is like the least aggressive sport out there.
Yeah.
If you could start sword fighting with the clubs, I think I would like golf a lot more. I have this ongoing battle with golf.
Yeah.
What's been your best moment on the ice in sled hockey so far?
Ooh.
I know there's got to be a lot of them.
Yeah. My first travel tournament, that was honestly really cool. It was my first game that was not, in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that honestly was amazing. Seeing there was teams from all over, come together. It was in Colorado.
Okay.
And teams from, literally all over the U.S. were coming in, and we were playing each other. And then there was, Paralympians there. Yeah. And just seeing all of these, sled hockey people, play and just live their life and go out and do stuff was really cool. And just being on the ice for the first time in that game, just the rush and just, it feels so good.
Well, it had to be a powerful sense of that community piece you talk about too.
Yeah.
It's like you all of a sudden, in day-to-day life, you may feel very isolated, that you can't relate to as many people that you just meet out in day-to-day life. But then all of a sudden you're put in this environment where everybody understands to a degree what your day-to-day life challenges look like. That has to be, and then you guys get to participate in this incredible sport together. It's got to be powerful to find and have that sense of community. And as you said, that's one of the best things people can do. And that's something we focus on heavily more and more and more. We've recorded several episodes on community now, and we have our own online community because we feel like it's so important for people who are facing these challenges to be able to have access to that, to be able to go to a space, whether it's in person or even online, where they can just tap into other people's experiences, their minds, just even, be normal humans with them and have some of those authentic connections are so powerful. But I imagine getting onto the ice at that event with teams from all over the country had to be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get any big goals in that match?
No, I did not. No, not that one.
Yeah. So what position do you usually play in
I'm
hockey?
right wing.
Right
so
wing.
Often.
Now, what does the right wing do?
Hit it in the goal.
Hit it in the goal. I like it.
Yeah.
Score the goals. That's awesome. Yeah, I've never done sled hockey myself. I've done a few different adaptive sports. Like skiing would be one of the biggest ones that
Always
I
wanted
like.
to do that.
Fell in love. If you like sled hockey, you would love this. And there is actually, I'll send you their contact info. There's a group in Breckenridge, Colorado, that is a purely adaptive skiing group, and they have all of the equipment, all of the tools. They have dual ski sleds. They have mono ski sleds. They have everything you could ever need, and they'll send instructors down with you, which is it's how I learned to ski back in the day, and then we got to help teach and coach younger kids in learning how to ski themselves. So it's a really great group, but there are so many opportunities out there like that people just, I don't think, really even realize exist. How did you first start getting connected with these groups? And for somebody who's new to facing a disability, how could they do that in their own lives?
So I went to this gym that specializes with people in paralysis.
Yeah.
And they had this like flyer of these adaptive sports communities, and I found it, and they were like, I think you'd like sled hockey.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yeah. And I went to a practice and I tried it, and first time in the sled, I was like, I fell in love.
Yeah.
The whole team was so supportive in there and helped me learn, and it was amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then you get to find people that you look up to who have been, at this have been overcoming this challenge for years and years and years. And it's always amazing the things that you can learn from them, I think. And there was a YouTuber guy I followed, his name's Josh Sundquist. He does a lot of comedic stuff. He had the same type of cancer I had. He was really the only person I had that I could kind of look to when I was going through my cancer journey of like, here's somebody who's come out the other side of this and really figured things out. But I think that's always so important. Do you feel that is like a large driving force and responsibility in your day-to-day life now, to be able to be that inspiration for other people who are going through that?
Sorry, what was the question?
Just, do you feel like any level of responsibility or just kind of a calling to be able to be that inspiration in people's lives who are facing disability for the first time now?
Yeah, for sure. I think just showing other people that you can still go out and do stuff. Like when I was at the paralysis gym, there was this one quadriplegic, he went skydiving.
Oh,
and I was like, that is
awesome.
so cool. And, just showing other people that there's a life that, not a lot of, like, I had no idea about any of this stuff at first. Just showing that to people online that, you can still go out and live despite challenges and all of this just really helps. And just seeing all the support I have from people too, it really helps.
Yeah, that's huge. Any big skydiving plans coming up?
I want to so bad.
Yeah. So are there adaptive skydiving groups out there that will help you do that? Or
I think they just like carry you onto the plane and you just
Well,
jump up.
I know. I think most people who are new skydivers, you're attached to another person anyway. So I don't see why it would be any different, Man, I don't know if I could do that one. I like the one remaining foot that I have planted firmly on the ground, not on a boat, not somewhere 50,000 feet above the earth, like it on the ground.
Definitely not 50,000. It's more like 12 to 15. So
okay, whatever. Okay. Regardless, might as well be 50,000.
50,000.
Oh shoot, that's funny.
Oh my.
But yeah, I love that you have this approach and not deciding by default, oh, I can't do that because I'm paralyzed. I'm going to find a way to do this, or I'm going to find a group that can help me do this. But I think there's a lot of people struggle to get to that place. And it's not just people who have disability, it's fully able-bodied people as well. You see it, I'm sure you especially see it all the time in life, where people will say, oh, I can't do this because the two most common excuses are I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money. How do we, as not even just people facing disability, how do we as people as a whole start to overcome some of these limiting beliefs we place for ourselves?
I don't think about what I can't do. I think about what I can. I find a way. Yeah. And it might be challenging at first, finding a way, but there's a way.
Yeah. I think that's most perfectly reflected in the content series you've been doing now for a while, and learning to stand again.
Yeah.
When did that series start?
Gosh, like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, it's been
That's
a while.
awesome.
I had this like leg block at first, and to like support my legs. I didn't really have a lot of upper body strength and to do it. And yeah, so I used that for like over a year, and I recently was able to get that leg block off. And the progress these past few months has been insane. Like I was literally a few months ago not even able to really get myself up and now I'm all the way up. And I started swimming in January, and I go every day, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
and I swim for like 2 hours, and that's really given me more upper body strength. And like I started with this little like float on me around me to like hold me up, and now I'm able to just hold myself up and swim with my arms without it. So
I think that's sometimes what holds us back is we're operating on the wrong time frame.
yeah.
People aren't looking at it as what can I accomplish in this area in 2 years. They're looking at it as, well, if I can't walk by next week, why would I even try?
Yeah.
So I think the fact you've been able to take that very long-term approach to it and say like, hey, this is something I'm going to make happen. I'm going to find a way to make this happen. It may take years.
Yeah.
But even if it took 10 years, if you got back to a place where you could walk again, it would 100% be worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than a lifetime of not being able to walk. And I love that you took that approach of being able to find things you can do. Like I can still swim, I'll find a way to swim. That'll help build up upper body strength, which will help support me in learning to stand again, which is ultimately the first step in learning to walk again. You kind of mapped out that whole process. Yeah. Do you feel like swimming is a particularly enjoyable activity? Because do you feel like it gives you a sense of freedom back?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
What's it like being in the water, being able to just control your own motion with nothing more than your own body?
I feel free.
Yeah.
I feel like I forget all of my problems when I'm in the water. I forget, everything that's happened to me. And I'm just focused on the water. I'm focused on swimming. And
do you feel like it's given you a place? I know you talk about upper body strength. Do you feel like it's helping you train your lower body as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine, and that's gotta, I imagine it's gotta work the hip flexors a little bit, some of the posterior chain a little bit, and I imagine that's gotta be part of what's helped contribute to the massive success you've had in being able to stand and hold that standing position. Because you're up to what? Are you up to full 2 minutes now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. 2 minutes 20 seconds, I think was.
Yes.
Was that the goal? You're the PR right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're working on 10 minutes, right?
Working on 10 minutes by May, but
That's awesome.
hopefully.
Yeah. But what I love about it is that you do have solid, defined, set goals for yourself, but you don't let your self-worth be tied to those goals. Like if you miss a goal for a day, you accept it and you work on it and you find a way to get stronger for the next day. Like you had a day recently, I think, where you were feeling pretty sick under the weather. And so I think your goal was to stand for 2 minutes, but you got to like 1 minute and 20 seconds or something. How do you are you able to just transition? Like if you don't hit that specific goal for the day, are you able to easily just transition and be like, okay, we're going to work on it for the next day? Or is that a skill you've had to build up over time?
I think I've always just been like,
Been
if I'm
very
not
good at
making
that.
it now, I'll make it. I did it before, I can do it again.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And I think that's something we can all take into our own lives that will help us with any goal we're chasing. Because I see it where people do this thing where we tie our self-worth to these goals. Like if I don't hit this, then I am not worthy as a person. And ultimately all that does is it just kind of corrupts our own journey and makes us not want to even move forward in the first place. And so it can be a dangerous road to walk down. But I think it's one of the most powerful things we can do to, yes, have these established goals, but find that balance of not tying our self-worth to it and understanding that there's going to be roadblocks, there's going to be challenges, you're going to have failure along the way. But ultimately we have to get to this point where we stay dedicated to the process, because that's the only way we ultimately succeed. And I know that also with you're definitely in your cancer journey, but also in, like powerlifting and hypertrophy and even marathon running. There's things that you've had to face along the way, and there's been failures with that and things you've had to overcome. Where do you think we can start in kind of building this process? Like if we're in a place where we feel like a total failure and don't want to go on, if we have a failure, how can we start to kind of detach our own self-worth from that, find our self-worth from a different place, and be able to move forward in the face of that failure and recognize that it's just part of the process to getting to where we ultimately want to be?
A lot to that.
Yeah.
But maybe two portions of that, if I can remember both topics. One would be I really do enjoy and find myself in that position of like put your head down and keep moving forward. Within the important part of that is merely you having that goal and other goals to kind of keep you on that track towards the ultimate purpose of what you're trying to fulfill. And the second portion of that would be you really need to be open, and you need to be willing, and you need to be entrusting of yourself to be able to learn from that failure. You have to be you really have to work on your curiosity as just a human in general to find yourself in that position of learning from that failure. You're not going to how could I word this? You're not going to be able to firstly enjoy the failure. Like, because for us that fail again and again and again, because we're continuing to try and try and try and try, we kind of, or at least in my world, I find myself enjoying those moments of failure, because then I know, okay, well, I failed. All right, well, that's because I tried. Sweet. What can I learn from that failure? Fantastic. I should have done this instead of that. Okay, wonderful. I can apply this to then my next attempt, and then we go from there. Okay, fantastic. And the easiest example of that is, if you're lifting and doing a bicep curl, and you found that, I couldn't do as much weight this time as the previous time. I wonder what happened. And then you find out that your one of your shoulders were turned in more than the other one, and there's little. Obviously, there are many complex. There's like this complex or a diverse array of different observations that are available for you to be able to take in your pursuit of those goals. So therefore, when you have a failure, if you were actively observing yourself through that position and you were curious enough to want to learn from that pursuit, then ultimately you're going to find, again, enjoyment in failure, knowing that it's going to allow you to learn something for the future.
Yeah.
And ultimately with having, I think a strong foundation of that set of skills is merely having those goals in mind, having those goals placed for you to continue to pursue, just for life in general, but obviously those goals as well, because it's not just about having one goal and then you finish it and then you're just like, okay, like I ran one half marathon. I wasn't just like, okay, sweet, done with running, wonderful, sayonara. I'm gonna go do something else. Some people can do that, and they can go learn they can go skydiving, as their new and next challenge, and fantastic. But for somebody like myself and a lot of people, we find, okay, well, I'm going to keep running. That was a lot of fun, learned a lot from it, gained a lot from it. Now what can I do next,
Yeah.
And so continuing to have those goals set, because I know quite a few people, plus also myself in the past, I would have such, I did not have the skill of being able to form this like the varying size and intensity of the goals themselves. I went from like 0 to 100, and when I didn't reach 100, the goal that was Mount Everest, like I needed to learn how to climb, Mount Rainier or Mount Si before I learned Mount Everest, and so like that was also kind of a key thing as well, is learning that you need to kind of set up and be willing to take enjoyment out of the failures and the things that you've learned from the micro level, that then you can then expand out and go to the macro level. So it's definitely purpose, learning to love goals, and also learning to enjoy failure and what you can achieve and ultimately learn from it.
Well, I like that concept you bring up of enjoying failure, because one of the things I've always thought about the moments when we fail that's kind of cool is that we at least know we didn't leave any potential on the table, because that's one thing we're obsessed about with what we do is human potential. Because for you to go from somebody who doctors said, oh, you'll never walk again, to now you're building the ability back to stand, and eventually you're going to get to this place where you can walk again. That is an impossible level of potential. You literally will have reclaimed your own body's ability to stand. And so in those moments where we do fail, like if you set the goal at 2 minutes for that day and you hit 1:30, you know, at least you know you didn't leave any potential on the table. But if you set the goal at 2 minutes and you sit down at 2 minutes, there's always that little question in the back of your mind, like, well, what if I could have gone 2 minutes and 5 seconds? You know, and so you know at least in that failure, you didn't leave any potential. You didn't leave a what if on the table. And you know that, hey, I showed up today to give it absolutely everything I had, and that's what I root my success in. So I think it's a powerful skill to be able to generate. And you know, obviously it's been a long road so far to getting up to where you can stand again, and it's going to continue to be a long road probably, and there's going to be successes and failures along the way, and I feel confident you're going to keep driving forward every time. What do you think that moment's going to be like when you do finally walk again?
I'd be so proud.
Yeah.
You know, I've been through so much this past 4 years, and you know, at first I honestly didn't know if I was going to walk, and I look back at 4 years, even in now, you know, I feel discouraged at times, like, oh, I should be walking by now, you know. But I look back and I'm like, I've made a lot of progress, you know. Like 4 years ago, I could barely sit out of bed, and I needed help with everything. And yeah, it's taking a little bit of time, but I could still not be walking standing. So, yeah.
You know what I love about that response? And I actually wasn't expecting this, but I love this response. You said, I'm going to be so proud.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool way to feel, because I think most of us would say, oh, I'd be so happy, I'd be so elated, I'd be so thankful. But you already have those things. You're already happy. You've already built this practice of gratitude in your day-to-day life. You're not in a place where, like, you haven't tied your own happiness to the ability to walk again. You haven't put yourself in a place where, oh, once I get to the point I can walk again, then I'll be happy with life. Yeah. You've already built happiness and gratitude. And what you're going to feel in that moment is pride.
Yeah.
And it's not even just pride in the ability to walk necessarily, but it's pride in the work you did to get there. The faith you had in your own potential to build that skill back up and to work through it day after day, night after night, failure after failure, success after success, in that long road that leads to something truly impossible.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a powerful piece we can all take into our own daily lives, that in those moments where we have that immense victory that we've wanted for so long, rather than just tying our happiness to that moment, truly allowing ourselves to feel pride in the work we've done, in the faith we've been able to have for ourselves, that I think is going to be a more lasting, a more driving emotion to be able to tie to it. And do you feel that same pride in the work you show up to do every single day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
If somebody's in a position where they're not feeling a lot of pride at the moment in whatever it is they're doing in life or whatever it is they're facing, how can we start to build some of that pride in our approach?
I think about, you know, all I've accomplished and where I was.
Yeah.
Even before I was paralyzed, you know, where I was with my mental health and how that got better, and I worked on that. And, you know, just thinking about what I can do and all I have has really helped.
Yeah, I really love that. So this this content series of being able to stand again, being able to walk again, it's been going on for a while, and it's going to keep going on for a while. But one touch that I really love that you add to it is you show the really hard parts of life, the really challenging parts of life. You really open our eyes up to what it's like to face the things you face on a day-to-day basis. And I think the best example recently was you were out on an Uber trip, and your locks on your wheelchair ended up getting broken, your brakes on it. And it's just one of those things that I think most people who don't live life in a wheelchair would never think about.
Yeah.
But it's like, imagine if you got up and started walking across the room and then didn't have the ability to stop, and you just had to run into a wall every time you wanted to change direction. You know, it's a very serious, very intense thing. And I could tell in the video you really allowed us to, as the viewer, to be able to see that very vulnerable place that it puts you in. Is it hard to bring some of that vulnerability to the camera?
No, not really. I really just want to show the people that it's hard at times, but it's also good. and, you know, this is reality.
Yeah.
And I feel very comfortable.
Because we all have hard days, right? You know, we all have those days where it just feels like absolutely nothing is going right, even though we're trying to do all these good things. Things just are not going right. And I think it's one of the greatest skills we can build to be able to not let that completely control us, to completely consume us, to completely tear us down or derail us from the mission we're on. And so I think that, you know, if we can build that skill of being able to recognize both the good and the bad, the really happy, joyous days and the really vulnerable, challenging days and moments, and then still just do, as you said, realize that, you know, there is a path forward. There's a way out of this. There's a way you can get those brakes fixed, as hard as it is. And then you can keep moving forward in that capacity every single day. So what's been one of the most fun parts for you as a content creator online?
Meeting other people who are also creators, all that. Yeah.
I think that's one of the coolest things is like the connections you can build.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got connections with your own audience, the people you're inspiring. But then there's got to be really cool connections you make with other creators, right?
Yeah.
Have you been able to like learn from them and grow from them, or teach other creators things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, definitely. Giving each other ideas, and I feel like have the same ways of thinking in a sense too, like the creative way of thinking, and just all of that has really been fun.
Well, because it is an art form.
Yeah.
It's one of the most prominent art forms today. And what's cool about it is it's something that we all have some level of access to, you know, like you don't have to go to some fancy art school and learn all of the nuances of painting with oil versus whatever else you paint with. I did watercolors back in the day. You know, that was my thing, especially the color by number.
Oh,
you know,
I love those.
I got really good at those. You know, they got these things out now. My daughter, Lily, they have it's like coloring sheets, and she's got these markers, but they only color on that paper. Like she could run it along the wall and they don't color on that. It's like wild.
That's awesome.
Some of the things but it
awesome.
Saves us a lot of.
I was about to say, as a parent, that's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing as a parent. It's so cool. And it's really cool because she'll like color and it'll show up as the color, like the orange or the blue or the yellow. So it's a really cool thing for her to be able to explore.
It's magic.
Yeah. But as a creator, you know, I think it's a little bit challenging in today's space too, because it's an art form at its core, right? But to be able to sometimes get the reach that you want or the engagement that you want, or to, you know, leverage the algorithm in the right way, I've always felt like sometimes I have to sacrifice a little bit of that creative side to, you know, cater to the algorithm and really drive forward that reach and growth. How do you think as creators today we can stay authentic to our message while still being able to hit the requirements we need to hit to be successful?
I always say be yourself. You know, people like seeing who you are and yourself, and not fake, you know, and just
I think that makes a lot of sense, because ultimately us as consumers of content, we're there for, like, your audience is there to see your journey. They're not there for the really good hook you used that day. You know, unless they're a creator themselves, they probably don't even recognize that they're being hooked by that hook. You know, but they're there for the journey. And I think as we go on, and especially in the age of AI, people are more and more craving this like authenticity piece, this piece of just like seeing a real human, the good, the bad, the positives, the negatives, the wins and the failures. And those are the things I think we're built to latch onto. And then you brought up the piece of community as well. What kind of power does it bring to a creator to build a community around their content?
Like with other creators?
With other creators or with their audience. What kind of edge does it give us when you have a community based around your content versus like if somebody were just not wanting to create some type of, not give community to people, they were just purely serving the algorithm and not trying to show up as their authentic self and not wanting to create a community. Why should we as creators want that community?
I think people like watching who you are, and you know, I don't know, like being fake and stuff. I don't know. I don't really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think, it can maybe work to get people some successful hits. And then what drives me crazy is seeing the videos of people who create their entire creation is just around tearing other people down.
Oh, yeah.
Those drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think, like you say, when we can show up as that authentic self, people gravitate towards that. And then, we're all kind of collectively cheering you on as we watch you being able to stand for longer and longer. And I think that's a really cool piece to be able to add to the side of content creation, the side of influencing, and just everything you're able to do. So what are your main goals as a creator right now and going forward?
Ooh.
Any new projects, anything fun and exciting coming on?
Starting a podcast.
Heck yeah.
So excited about that.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. What initially made you want to start up a podcast?
I don't know. I watch a lot of podcasts,
Yeah.
and I found them really interesting and love listening to them, especially when I'm just like doing stuff around the house.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like bringing other people and talking about their issues too, about with chronic illnesses and mental health, just showing people that they're not alone. And this is something I really want to do.
Well, a cool thing I think you'll find too is that a lot of the lessons you've learned along the way in your journey, you'll be able to see other people who have found those same lessons just through a different lens of viewing it. And when we look at things through different lenses, like I've got my disabilities, I've got one leg. Austin and I are cancer survivors. You've faced paralysis in your life as well as battling through sepsis. And so those are all different challenges, but we can find some of the same lessons from them. And when you look at it through different lenses, sometimes you learn new little unique pieces you didn't know before. And I also think it's cool as a creator, because things like Instagram are primarily short form.
Yeah.
To be able to take those and put it into long form content like a podcast, I always think is really cool. And again, it's that authenticity piece, because if we sit and talk for 10 seconds on a reel, there's only so much our audience can learn from us in 10 seconds. But if we sit down like this and chat for 2 hours, there's so much behind the scenes, some of the insights, some of the successes and failures that people are going to then get to see that they may never have gotten to see on just the short form alone. So I think it's going to be something you really enjoy for sure. And definitely a great space for you to be able to collaborate with other creators and to bring their stories on and to kind of show their lens of the lessons they've learned along the way. So with the podcast, are you going to do it kind of mostly in person, online? Any plans for that?
Mostly in person, probably, yeah.
I think that's where the best authentic connection comes from. That's why we flew out to Seattle to do this podcast rather than just do it over a video call. And ultimately, that's at the end of the day the purpose of what we're doing, and I know the purpose of what you're doing is just to create as much impact from the message, from the journey as possible. And I think doing that in-person setup really, really allows for that very nicely. And I'm excited to see your show come out. So are you able to share with people what it is, what the idea and the concept behind it is?
So it's going to be called Paralyzed, Not Powerless.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be talking about mental health, chronic illnesses, and physical health, and what other people are going through. And yeah.
No, I think that's really powerful. And like we chatted about in the car ride up here, it's one of those things where I think it's going to serve people who face disability really well, because it gives us so many examples of like, oh, I can relate to this person for this reason, but I can also learn this other thing from them I didn't even know about. But I think it's also going to be cool for people who don't face disability in day-to-day life, because it gives them that behind-the-scenes look of what it really looks like. Yeah. And it allows them to see people with disabilities just as, normal people. Yeah, there's some added challenges that we have that other people may not have, but it's still just normal. It's, you wake up, you got goals, you got dreams for life, you got visions, you got challenges you face, challenges you overcome. Sometimes we fail, and really that's just life.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a really cool show for people, and I'm excited for you to be able to release it. So outside of the podcast, what's next for Bella?
I'm gonna graduate college.
Heck yeah.
So excited about
Wonderful.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
work on my content
Mhm.
and
And get back to walking again.
yes, get back to walking
Heck yeah.
again.
And you said you have a these like motorized braces that you're able to get,
Yes.
right? Can you talk to people about how those work and how you can incorporate some of that technology into this journey?
Yes. So I have a trial this upcoming Monday for
Mhm.
them, and they're basically like an exoskeleton, which is like this walking robot, basically, but they're in leg braces. So they're not like as bulky, and they have like a sensor in them that'll move my legs for me.
That's so cool.
And so I'm gonna definitely try like start a series with that, of
Yeah.
seeing how many steps I can take and progressing with that, and then hopefully turning the settings down on that and being able to just start using my own legs with it and then not need the leg braces anymore and walk.
Yeah, it's an amazing assist. It's kind of like for, if somebody were to walk with a cane,
Yeah.
as kind of that assist, this is a much more technologically advanced version of that to give you an assist to be able to practice that skill again, then slowly be able to rely less and less on the assist and more on your own body, which I think is just so cool. And it's awesome that technology has gotten to that place now that we have those opportunities. And so that's really powerful. And it's going to be really exciting watching that journey of walking again. I can't wait for someday when we get to see the video of you taking your first steps again. Because
yeah.
it's gonna be so cool to not just see you be able to reclaim that ability to do that impossible thing, but to see that pride you mentioned in your eyes. That's always one of the best things to witness in somebody and in their journey. And if you don't mind, before we wrap up today, we actually have, I was showing you our online community in the car ride over. So one of the cool things we get to do on there is people can submit questions for
Yeah.
you. And so anybody who's a part of that online community gets behind the scenes knowledge of knowing who's coming on the podcast. They get to see some of the behind the scenes of the setup and everything, and they get to submit questions. So if you guys want to join into this community and be able to ask questions to guests just like Bella, click that one of those top links in the show notes there, and we'll have it linked right up. But one of our members asked if there was ever any sort of faith component to your journey, like anything you ever leaned on as far as like religion or certain philosophical beliefs or things that really helped you feel grounded and gave you something to come back to in those hardest moments. And it's okay if not either.
Not
But I didn't know if
really,
there was
no.
any sort of like leanings in those directions that you ever had to get you through, or did it more just kind of come in from internal to yourself?
More internal.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
that's powerful. And I think we all have to get to a space where we can, find a lot of that grounding from within ourselves. And then certainly, you can go to steps beyond that. Like some people find huge power in their faith and in their religion. But if that faith doesn't connect back to them, if ultimately we can't connect everything back to ourselves and who we are and our own potential and our own power that we do have over the situation, it's tough to move forward if we don't have that. So it's cool you were able to establish that before you'd ever really even come to face a lot of these challenges. And I think it hopefully helped to give you a good direction in the face of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So then another one of our members, her name's Dawn. You would love Dawn. She lives
Yeah.
over in England, actually probably not terribly far from where your sister is in Edinburgh.
A few hours, yeah.
Yorkshire is where she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she has a great accent, by the
Yeah.
way. It's so cool. Has your sister got any sort of Scottish accent?
She's
since
starting
being-
to, yeah.
Starting to?
Yeah.
I love the Scottish accent. It's one of the coolest things. First of all, she was very amazed by your journey and everything you've overcome and everything you've achieved. And she wanted to ask in what ways has going through and, having to live life with a disability, face paralysis, in what ways has this changed your outlook on life?
More grateful for everything, because you never know when it's going to be your last time doing something. Never in a million years did I think I would lose my ability to walk at 18 and face all of these challenges, lose my ability to eat and all of this. And definitely just being grateful for all I have and what I can do and just living every day to the fullest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think that's a powerful perspective, and it's absolutely true. It is that old adage of we don't know what we've got till it's gone, and it's hard sometimes to keep that like at the forefront of our focus. But you mentioned that practice you have of writing down 5 things every day you're grateful for. What element, or how do you think that's helped you be able to maintain that gratitude every day?
It just brings me in a better mood in the morning, you know? Just sees all I have and...
Yeah. Well, because if you list 5 things you're grateful for every morning, you're going to by default feel a little bit of gratitude. Even if you wake up that morning and you just feel like, oh man, I can't get out of bed today. You know, it's really cold outside. I don't want to try to get over to the pool this morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, if even if when you have those moments, if you just sit down and write 5 things you're grateful for, even if you don't feel grateful while you're doing it, you're going to leave that practice feeling more gratitude than you would have if you didn't do it at all. And so sometimes we have to kind of speak things into existence, if you will. And I think that's a great practice you have for being able to do that. So yeah, those are the questions we have right now from the school community. And what Dawn said is kind of in the sense of just enjoying the simple things in life. What are some simple things you have in life every day that seem totally normal and ordinary, but just make you feel bring you a lot of joy?
My dog.
Your dog?
Yes.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's little Maltese.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
What's her name?
Sugar.
Sugar. I love that. Is she lots of energy?
Yeah, she's also disabled too.
Oh, really?
So when I was first paralyzed, I used to volunteer at this animal shelter, and I wanted a dog when I went to college or stuff. So they were like, we have a dog for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I saw her, and her back legs don't really work the best.
Okay.
She hops like a little bunny and stuff. It's really cute, but she doesn't let it stop her, She so much energy and loves attention.
You know what's amazing is we see it in animals, and we also see it in really young kids, and especially in babies. Like if they have some sort of disability or some sort of added challenge, they just do not let it stop them. They don't even have a mind. Like it doesn't even seem like victimhood could even enter their mind. They just go and they find a way around it. And I think that's something we can all learn from, is just maintaining that spirit of, this doesn't have to hold me back. I can go forward, and maybe I won't be able to do everything that I could have when I was fully able-bodied, but I can still go out and find ways to achieve anything that I want to. You can still go out and find ways to skydive, to play hockey, which are things that those doctors in the hospital probably would have never thought possible for you. And yet you've found ways to make it happen. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've personally learned from you, is just that no matter what the situation is in life, we can still live life, And what I think is most exciting is, even despite what the doctors told you back in the hospital, you were going to be able to walk again.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the moment you do.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, Bella, thanks for being on the show today. Did you have anything else you wanted to add or leave people with?
Just know, if you're going through a hard time, that it gets better and there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And
I love that. Awesome, brother. You got anything else to add?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. And there's one final question I want to ask, and we close with this for most guests, especially somebody who's, created as much power around a situation as you have. If you could think back to the girl you were in those days right after the surgery, when you're feeling that pain, something's wrong, and you're just watching your ability slip away, what's one piece of advice you would give her?
Ooh. That's hard.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I think these are such important questions is I've always found it really rewarding to be able to go back and treat today as if we're serving the person we were in our darkest moment. So what's one thing, and maybe even if it's not advice, what's one thing you think would have really helped her to hear?
Telling her not to give up, and that it gets easier, and that I wasn't alone in this, and that I had support, and to just keep going. Yeah.
That's powerful. No matter how alone we feel, how numb we feel, there's always somebody we can find in our lives something we can latch on to that will give us a path forward. And it's that purpose, that passion, like you talked about, that pulls us forward in life, gives us that reason to wake up in the morning that ultimately will pull us out of some of those darkest moments.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, hey, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. Appreciate you coming out to Tacoma and riding out with us from Olympia and giving us a reason to come out here and explore new sites, new places, new corners of the country. I know, Austin, you've been here before, but I've literally never been here before. So it's really, really cool to see. And I love any time I get to witness the Rocky Mountains in person. It's always a spectacle. So if people want to follow your journey, Bella, and see more of what you're doing and cheer you along the way and eventually get to watch that video where they see you take your first steps again, where's the best places people can follow you?
Yeah, my Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok are all Bella Will Walk Again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're able to grab the handles for all of those.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. So guys, we'll have all those linked down below in the show notes if you want to follow Bella's journey on whichever platform, or I would honestly recommend follow her on every platform, and it'll help promote what she's doing and make sure that you get to see that moment when she finally takes those steps again. And as always, guys, the only number one thing we ask for you is that if you got something out of today's episode, to please scroll down a little bit, click the share button, copy the link to this episode in whatever platform you're watching this on or listening to this on, and copy it into a text message, an email, a social media post, however you want to share it. Share it with as many people you know as you believe it would help, because at the end of the day, that is how we do everything we are striving to do with Impossible Performance, because we are here to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Bella, for being here. And as always, be impossible.